Greetings, sea captains. This is Classic Crafts, the video series that takes shining examples of crafting genius from the Ship Expo and explores the methods and the madness behind their construction. Up on the crafting bench this week is the Frigate, created by Zhong Xiaoxuan. This is a ship that puts damage before all other considerations. With its robust frontal circular saw pincer and circular saw whips, the Frigate deals massive sustained damage to anything foolish enough to get ensnared in its clutches. In today's episode, we'll be looking at how to make a small ship with heavy armament viable. We're going to start by looking at the central saw whips, which are a key source of damage and a visual highlight of the ship. We're looking at this first because we have a scale factor to think about, and also because we're thinking about the hull in terms of balancing rather than as a central feature in itself. This ship is all about deadly melee power. The whips that support the central saws are composed of T-shaped pivots 90 degrees and small deck pieces. The smallest size we can use for the deck pieces is 2x1 because we need to have room to fit all those saws in. If you're having difficulty controlling these whips, you can adjust the sensitivity and snapping speed of the T-shaped pivots later on. Set custom key commands to separate these parts from the turning configuration. Be careful to avoid interlocking the whips, it can lead to some very jerky movement. The saw pincer that composes the bulk of the bow is structurally of great importance. It prevents our saw whips from dragging the bow down because it provides buoyancy and thus stability on either side. Build saws to the tops of the pincer arms to deal extra damage during melee engagements. The Frigate is covered all over in buoyancy tanks, which help keep afloat the heavy weapons and keep the crazy bobbing and pitching under control. You might need to tweak these later on once the basic hull is complete. The stern should be built light so as to maximize mobility. At the same time, it needs to extend far enough back to shift the ship's center of gravity. We can't afford for the ship to be too front heavy. The Frighte's movement is controlled entirely using propellers. The forward and backward propellers are spread fairly evenly over the ship. Spreading out the thrust helps to reduce pitching, which is a common problem for ships with many heavy parts. The four turning propellers are located at the stern, positioned as far aft as possible to maximize their impact on the turning circle. And that's it. After a little balancing for buoyancy and mobility, your saw ram frigate will be ready to cut some lumber. Perhaps you have a different idea about how best to engage these deadly weapons. Now it's your turn to take to the shipyard. Dazzle us and leave us in awe of your crafting skill. Thanks very much everyone, see you next time.